All right, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're coming from. Happy to be here today. Today, we are presenting the challenges of immigration and labor shortages. Always a hot topic, and it's something that never seems to go away. So today, you have myself. Here's John Kenney. Over 45 years in the roofing industry. Love to always be here and speak with everybody and virtually see you through here. So it's great to be here. And I'm joined by my co-host and legal expert, Jeremy Power. Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm well. I'm sitting at my kitchen table here in downtown Toronto. Happy to be here as always with you, John, and to dive right into this hot button issue we've got in front of us.
All right. Yes, we get a lot of information today, so we'll get going here right now. So before I jump into the introduction, I just want to let everyone know that there is a lot of information and some of it is very detailed. So we provided, it's under the handout section. You can download it in PDF. And also too, if you have any questions as we go along, please go ahead and put them in. And at the end, we'll save 5 to 10 minutes for questions, and our moderator will get on with us, Whitney, and let us know what questions you have, and we'll get to them. So other than that, we're ready to begin. So while all industries are dealing with the labor crunch, this is some of the statistics. 38,000 jobs in healthcare, 29,000 in food service, 24,000 in manufacturing, and 21,000 in construction were unfilled in the second quarter of this year alone in Ontario. So those are some large numbers. And honestly, it's a worldwide issue. It seems to be a phenomena that's growing each and every day. So what we thought we'd do is prepare in this webinar. We're going to give you a brief overview of how you and your business can benefit from Canada's immigration laws. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jeremy. Jeremy, go right ahead and let's bring us up to date.
Yeah, so as John said, there's a lot to get through today. So I just want to say off the hop, if there's anything you want to follow up with, feel free to email me as always, and I'll reiterate this at the end. So jumping right in, the main sources of law in Canada regarding immigration come from the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act and the regulations associated with that. Not important for right now, but those are what underlie all these rules. The ESDC, Employment, Social Development Canada, and Service Canada play more of like a servicing role. And when you're trying to get your construction worker into Canada or any other, type of worker into Canada, these are the government bodies you're going to be dealing with. So if today we're going to focus mostly on the construction industry, but or depending on what kind of immigration avenue you're going to take, it can go in a myriad ways. So the applications from employers requesting to hire temporary foreign workers and the likely impact these temporary foreign workers would have on the Canadian job market will be assessed by the ESDC. And moving right on, temporary foreign workers. Basically, these are applicants who require a temporary resident visa to enter Canada, and they have to submit a work permit application to a visa office outside of Canada. You can't try to get this within Canada's borders. So there's a bunch of different items that can be assessed if you're trying to become a temporary foreign worker, or if your business is trying to avail of the temporary foreign worker service. It can be, whether or not this person is a bona fide visitor, whether it's actual work they're coming for. And to reiterate, a lot of what you hear in the media about temporary foreign workers in Canada has to do with farm work. It's not just farm work. It can apply to a bunch of different industries. So something we're going to be talking about a lot today is a labor market impact assessment, or their exemptions. So that will be very important, and it's a abbreviation I want you to keep in mind today. For that to work at all, though, the applicant's experience and qualifications need to meet specific requirements. They have to apply to the proper visa office. So, for example, if you're trying to get a job in Montreal, you need to apply via Quebec, Alberta, Calgary, or Edmonton, and so on and so forth. You get the drift. Normally, you need to get a criminal record check. Not always a medical examination sometimes, and biometrics like the scanning of your eye is becoming more and more important or more prevalent in the process. And of course, a visa is required if the application is made outside of Canada. So, all right. So, if the documentation submitted by an applicant is insufficient, it can fail. So basically, you'll be back to square one. It doesn't mean you're exempt from doing it again, but it's going to cost you more money. So you want to have your ducks in a row right away. Once it's been preliminarily approved, the visa office will request the applicant's passport. Once you have a final determination, a temporary resident visa will be issued, like a stamp in your passport, and the passport will be returned. Any of you who've traveled abroad to, countries like India, Japan, Pakistan, depending on your nationality, often you have to go through this process just to even visit. So it's the same with Canada to get in and get this visa approved to work. So applicants approved inside the country, say you're already on one of these visas, will be issued a work permit and will need to apply separately for the temporary resident visa once the work permit is obtained. So there are a number of countries that are actually visa exempt, but you still need to apply for an ETA. So with the exception of our cousins to the south, the Americans, all foreign nationals from visa exempt countries must also obtain an ETA before traveling to Canada by air. Foreign nationals in Canada can submit an application inland. So failure to obtain an ETA may result in you not being able to get on the airplane. If you do manage to get on the plane, customs might turn you around, or you might just have a bit of a kerfuffle at whatever airport you land at. This isn't extremely relevant to what we're talking about today, but depending on the type of immigration status and worker you're trying to bring into the country, it can be. So most ETA applications are approved within minutes. And like I said, if you already have a Canadian visa, if you're an American, or if you're entering by sea or land, it is irrelevant. Obviously, Canadian citizens, including dual citizens and PRs, cannot apply for an ETA. All right, so this might actually be more applicable for our audience today. So a lot of people who come into the country don't need any kind of visa or work permit, yet are still doing business. You may ask, how? How is that possible? Well, let's say John here wants to come visit our Toronto office or Montreal. As a intra-company or intra-office visitor and someone who's conducting business in Canada but not, on behalf of a Canadian company, John would be fully within his rights to come into Toronto, tell the immigration officer that, look, I'm here doing business, I'm here to see my colleague Jeremy, and they will stamp his passport. You do not need a visa for that. And so in the roofing context, if you're working for a big multinational and you need to visit, you're an American, colleagues need to visit Canada, but they're not actually participating in the labor market actively, that is not a problem. And you don't need to apply for a visa. There's a lot of misconceptions about that. And again, after the presentation here, if anyone has questions about this kind of exemption specifically, I'm happy to explain. I know this is about Canadian immigration, but the same thing goes for the US. You need to be careful how you word this, but if you're a Canadian going down to the States to see colleagues down there or visit an office down there, same thing. Don't tell the border guard you're going for work, say you are visiting for business. I learned that the hard way when I went down to Tampa in May, nearly got myself kicked out of the States, but I digress. So just to go over this again, In order to qualify as a business visitor to Canada, the following conditions must be met. Foreign worker must not intend to enter the labor market in Canada. You're just visiting. The activity of the foreign worker must be international in scope, like I just explained. Cottney's office in Toronto, headquarters in Tampa, international. The primary source of the worker's finance, their remuneration, the principal place of the worker's employer, and the accrual of profits of the worker's employer must be outside Canada. Again, same thing. If you're going to the US and you're a Canadian company, you can't be accruing profit in the US. It has to be going back to Canada. And that's about all you need to know about that for now. So there are certain categories of business visitors. I just put a few down in the slideshow just to give everyone a sense of how it works. So after sales and lease services, maybe not that applicable to the construction industry if you're a contractor, but if you're in supply, sure, it definitely is. So if you're a business visitor on that exemption and you're coming in to do service for work periods of longer than 2 days, you must be documented on a visitor record. But if you are repairing and servicing, supervising installers, setting up testing, commercial or industrial equipment, including computer software, so again, this can apply to contractors too, really. A lot of this is how you would phrase what you're doing. So if you are, again, a big roofing multinational based in Florida, let's say, you got a job in Mississauga, and the VP of services in Florida wants to come to Mississauga and say, okay, how are those installers installing my product on this big contract we got? This would apply to you. You can come in, you can help them, you can discuss best practices, you can have business meetings. Again, no visa required. It's just like going on a vacation to Niagara Falls, except you're going to a roofing job site. Same thing, honestly. So the way you phrase this and the way you're visiting, it's very important for this. So continuing on, repairing or servicing specialized equipment, same thing. Oh, sorry about that, John. Yeah, I digress. Yeah, we're good. So providing familiarization or training service to prospective users or to maintenance staff of the establishment after installation of specialized equipment. Situations in which companies purchase computer-controlled equipment or machinery. You guys get the drift. But at the bottom here, this is important. Hands-on building and construction work are generally prohibited. So you can't be the guy with the hammer in your hand. You have to be showing the Canadians, or vice versa, showing the Americans how to use your product, how it works, how the servicing should work. I'm the lawyer here. I'll leave it to you guys, the experts on construction, to figure out how you're going to direct people when you're doing this kind of coaching of how to, show your foreign employee. So then buyers must be representative of a business carrying on activities outside Canada or of a foreign government entering Canada to purchase Canadian goods or services for that business or foreign government, or receive training with respect to those goods or services. A lot of words. Basically, all that means is if you're buying something in Canada, you can come in and again, without a permit. Same thing with selling. All the same language except selling. If you're going to the States to sell your Canadian roofing product, no problem. If you're coming to Canada to sell your Canadian roofing product, no problem. As long as the profits and the revenue go back to the home jurisdiction. Sounds kind of strange, but that's the way immigration law works. All right, so I think we're through the work without a permit. Oh no, we still have a bit more. So employees of foreign companies contracting Canadian companies. So where foreign companies hire Canadian companies to provide services for them in foreign jurisdictions, one or more employees can enter Canada as a business visitor to ensure the company is doing the job they are contracted to do. So this is more of the same kind of language. It's basically just what you could look at this as is international business as a whole, as long as the money is going back to where it's intended, the original jurisdiction, is exempt. So there are a few a few points here that they point out. The employee must remain on foreign company's payroll. Yep. Foreign company must remain the beneficiary of the employee's efforts. Yep. Foreign company's principal place of business must remain outside Canada. All that makes sense, and it's just more of the same kind of thing we were discussing. And this is the same with the U.S. Again, if you're a Canadian company and you want to do business in the U.S., these laws are very analogous. I don't want to comment too much on it, but it is very much the same. So again, just briefly, other categories include trainees and trainers with the Canadian office of a multinational, supervisors, board members, employees of short-term temporary residents, commercial shooting, and many more. So again, please reach out for additional categories that are exempt from needing a permit. Okay, so this is really the meat of the presentation I wanted to get to. So a labor market impact assessment, really important for getting foreigners into Canada to work where the profits can accrue to them and they are taking a job that a Canadian could do. But there's a caveat there, you need to actually look for a Canadian first. So without getting too down the line here, I'll just go through this. So an LMIA is a document that an employer in Canada may need to apply for before hiring a foreign worker. A positive LMIA or confirmation letter issued by ESDC or Service Canada demonstrates that there is a need to hire a foreign worker. Upon issuance of the positive LMIA, a foreign worker may then apply to the IRCC for a work permit. Under the IRP Act, I know there's a lot of abbreviations here, just bear with me. A work permit based on a positive LMIA remains an important means of relocating a foreign worker to Canada, particularly where other options do not exist. So, if the foreign national requires a work permit, sorry guys, I think my screen's the sunshine's gone away. If the foreign national requires a work permit, an initial assessment of the case should be carried out to determine whether an LMIA exempt category applies, which would allow the issuance of a work permit without Service Canada's intervention. If no LMIA exemption is applicable, then an immigration officer will determine on the basis of an opinion provided by ESDC or Service Canada whether employment of the foreign national is likely to have a neutral or positive economic effect on the labor market in Canada. Whether the job offer is genuine, so that reading between the lines there, there's room for scamming here for immigration purposes. So they're always on the lookout for that. Issuance of the work permit is not inconsistent with any provincial federal agreements. So what they mean there is certain, especially in Quebec, there are certain agreements for categories of jobs that if a foreign worker is applying for one, they're automatically directed to a certain part of Canada's economy. Now, that just basically means if you are applying, and it doesn't apply to employers who are looking for specific things, but say you were applying for a job, you just wanted to come to Canada. The federal government could look at these provincial, federal agreements they have and direct you to go to a certain place. You might not end up in Toronto, you might end up in none of it, right? So you don't know. Again, this is not really applicable for today, but something you should be aware of. And then the employer has abided by the terms set out in previous applications over the previous 6 years. All that means is if you're an employer who has gone down this road before, and there have been terms dictated to you by the government before about how you need to go about future applications, you need to follow them. So then, the opinion issued as a result of this entire process is referred to as the LMIA, or Labor Market Impact Assessment. All right, so the entry of TFWs is facilitated by two main programs. Obviously, the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, and then there's the International Mobility Program. So the TFWP encompasses all work permits issued to temporary foreign workers based on an assessment of the labor market in the area the temporary foreign worker will be working, known as the LMIA. The IMP is the immigration program that encompasses all work permits and work permit exemptions. Again, we'll talk about that in a little while. Excuse me, that were issued without obtaining an LMIA. So the government, the relevant authorities, have the authority to review the activities of any employer of a foreign worker by conducting an audit, which may include an inspection with or without prior notice to the employer, a review under ministerial instruction, i.e. government instruction, an employer compliance review for employers under the TFWP only. All right, so moving on. On the 1st of January 2015, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada introduced a new online system called Express Entry, which is used to manage applications for permanent residence under 3 federal economic immigration programs: the Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trades Program, and the Canadian Experience Class. Again, I know there's a lot of information I'm spitting at everyone here, so after the fact, feel free to email me about all these different abbreviations and seemingly diverging paths, but they all lead to the same place. So the EE system can also be utilized by the provinces and territories to recruit candidates through their provincial nominee programs to meet local labor market needs. The Express Entry system has the following steps. First, a potential candidate for one of the 3 federal economic immigration programs must complete an online Express Entry profile, which includes the following info: your skills, your work experience, your language ability, i.e., do you speak French and English, education, and other details that will aid in assessment. So those who meet the criteria for one of the 3 immigration programs, regardless of whether the applicant is sponsored or unsponsored, will be accepted into a pool of candidates. Second, candidates within the pool will then be ranked against other candidates using a points-based system called the comprehensive ranking system, which awards points for skills and experience factors, spouse or common law factors, such as their language skills and education, skills transferability, including education and work experience, and then just general education and other factors. So a candidate can get additional points for qualifying education in Canada, i.e. did you go to trade school or, let's see, okay, a bit better. Did you go to trade school or university in Canada? Do you have a valid job offer? Siblings who are citizens or PRs? Again, strong French language skills, or a nomination by a province or territory. So basically, and we're getting to the crux of what I think most people wanted to know here today, is how do I get a foreign construction worker into Canada? And we're getting there on the main way to do it. So if the worker has certain qualifications, it helps. A, higher education degree. It doesn't have to be a master's degree or MBA or, MSc, whatever, bachelor's degree, any kind of education. Trade school counts too. If you're a Red Seal, big ups for you. That will help you get into Canada. And if you're looking for an employer, if you're looking for an employee, you want to look for someone who's got the requisite skills. And if they have skills on paper, despite their years of experience or what have you, that will really help. So like other construction trade qualifications, that would fall under there. So we talked about the Provincial Nominee Program. I'll just go over it briefly again. Helps to nominate semi-skilled or skilled workers, including skilled construction workers, to the region in particular that requires them. And then the provincial governments collaborate with the IRCC to help foreign individuals find these jobs. So in the example I spoke about earlier, wherein you could have a government program between the province of Quebec or Ontario or Newfoundland with the federal government, you can have then a situation where you're sort of corralled into one province based on your skills and what you've put on your application. So then you've got the Federal Skilled Trades Program and Federal Skilled Worker Program, which we briefly went over. So the Federal Skilled Worker Program is commonly used to bring construction workers in under the Express Entry System. And the IRCC designed foreign or FSTP and FSWP for skilled foreign individuals with qualifications is a way for not only your worker to get into Canada, but to fast track their way to becoming a PR and then citizen. So unlike the provincial nominee program, which requires a valid job offer, the FSWP and FSTP are online immigration programs that enable you to create an express entry profile without any kind of job offer. So the basic conclusion is, in Canada, construction is in high demand. That's been determined by the government already, and the unfilled jobs that we mentioned at the beginning, all of those now would fall under a category of being in high demand. So that would require an LMIA. So why I put that here is because in the example of Ontario, if you want to bring in a foreign worker, you can. All you need to do, and people are, why didn't he just say this at the beginning? But now you've got the legal underpinnings that I had to go through. So hiring a foreign worker, step one, find out if your company requires an LMIA. It does in Ontario, at least. And I'm guessing Quebec, because they're openly trying to increase their immigration right now. And I'm sure the rest of Canada too. So you've got that step done. Then you go look for your foreign worker. Within that, there are 6 steps. First one, advertise the position. Now, in the supplementary documents we've provided you guys, we go into a lot more detail on this process. So please feel free to have a look at that, but this is just the general idea. Advertise the position. Then you must follow the recruitment process that the government has laid out. Again, we've got all that laid out for you. And this is important. You need to at least attempt to find Canadians to do the job. So in Ontario, if you need, someone to work on a roofing job site, and you need someone who's got a high degree of proficiency with torching, or, has like good experience with some sort of, laying a slate roof or what have you, and you can't find someone, you need to show that you attempted to do so. You need to show, okay, we went on Indeed, we went on LinkedIn, we went wherever to find anyone. We didn't find anyone who matched what we were looking for. So now we have to go south of the border or to the UK or wherever. So you need to demonstrate that, and the government will check that you did that. Then you submit an application to the ESDC outlining all this. Then they will interview you in step 4. All right, so tell us about your company. What is it you do? Why couldn't you find anyone? Or, and then, if you can demonstrate that you didn't, find anyone that was suitable for you, you'll receive a decision, a positive decision, most likely. And it's quick, 3 to 5 days. So you can appeal this process. I didn't go into that here. We're assuming it works. If it doesn't work, then, there are avenues to have a second look. So then forget about that. Let's assume it does work. Then you assist the worker you want to bring into Canada to apply for a work permit. And then the foreign worker you intend to hire has to use the LMI approved letter and something called Annex A, which is just basically a government form, which is going to assist you, or assist the worker more so, in coming into Canada. And with all that, voila, you've got your foreign worker in Canada. Very easy, right?
That's a lot of information. Excellent information.
Yeah, I apologize to the audience there because there's a lot to get through. So I was really trying to just fly through it. But yeah, so that's the gist of everything. And John, if you want to weigh in there, it's.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just want to remind everybody, please go to the handouts. You can download it. The details off of some of these important slides are on there for you. And again, we'll go through some questions here in a minute, but Jeremy will be available to take any more detail later on as you think about it. And of course, we know we always have a lot of people watch on replays. So again, you'll be able to contact out. We'll get you the information.
Yeah.
I think one of the things to weigh in on, Jeremy, is the world gravity of this whole situation is huge. Labor is a shortage everywhere. So I think you're going to see nations and boundaries start to compete even more and more for labor force, especially in the construction, the skills trade zone. So I think the way you laid this out, you're up there as a contractor. This was a great way to see what you can do, especially where you explained about going out there and making the attempt to hire local first. I don't think that's very hard for anybody to prove. I'm pretty sure there's not a contractor on this webinar today that couldn't double their workforce tomorrow with the amount of work that's out there if we get the materials for it, but that's another topic in itself. So yeah, definitely I think it's going to be a big movement going forward. You're not only going to have local recruitment, I think you're going to be looking at international recruitment as well for the skilled forces.
Yeah, for sure, John. I totally agree. And I know just looking around the GTA, I mean, it's insane the amount of construction that's going on. I think at least pre-pandemic, Toronto had more cranes in the sky than New York, LA, and Chicago combined or something. So
that's a correct stat. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, the city is absolutely booming. So yeah, there's not enough work. There's not enough workers, I should say, to help with that. And this may sound, I just want to reiterate, first of all, it may sound a little complex, but I was speaking to John earlier about this. It can be a little pricey and seem complex, but it really, immigration law and the process for going through this is very formulaic. And we have at Cotney, I mean, I do some immigration work with my colleague Maria. And between the two of us, the immigration work's been picking up, and it's it's accessible. If it's something you think you can avail, your company will benefit from, reach out. I mean, we can certainly help with it, and she can help on the American side too. I'm not going to pretend that I can. I certainly can in Canada, but yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff to know and a lot of government jibber jabber that they get on with, but you can cut through it and it's really not too bad. So yeah, I would
This is
encourage
one
anyone
you
to reach
want to
out.
think outside the box as a contractor. I think you want to start planning with your company that this is going to be part of your future recruitment plans. And I think the sooner you start to engage the ideas of it, put a plan together, and as Jeremy said, reach out, have a chat. We're always there for you guys. Have a chat, kind of let's put this together as a plan. But I think it's very, very important moving forward. As just a comment on what you're saying, all the new construction going on pre-pandemic, during pandemic, as an old roofer, it always warms my heart when I saw that, because that just tells me 15 years or so down the road, the re-roof market's going to be even greater than it is now. So,
Yeah.
always something to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And on the other end, I mean, I think John spoke on something really important there, in that competition, as it heats up for talent, as we recover from, the pandemic's worst effects, and we move into hopefully a more normal year in 2022. I think there's going to be a big demand for high-end talent all around the world, and leading to maybe a relaxation of some immigration law. And I think, Canada and the US hopefully will start to, draw talent from overseas, and there will be more of an exchange of talent between our two countries. Because there's been a bit of a trend of closing off borders in the last few years, and it's not good for business. And I think we're seeing the effects of that to some degree with these labor shortages. So yeah, hopefully things loosen up. But for now, we are definitely here to help you avail of the current labyrinth of immigration law, if you so choose to try and navigate it.
For sure. So I'm going to break in here and ask our moderator, Whitney, do you have any questions for the group to come up?
Hey guys, I'm going to remind everyone to go ahead and, if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the question box right here on this side panel. But the only question I do have right now is geared to you, Jeremy, and it's basically it's a question on how you can help them if they do have someone in mind to help them get employed in their business if they're currently not a citizen.
Are they in the, well, I'm going to assume they're in the construction business. Stupid question. Yes. But yeah, so it depends which province they're in. I'm going to make another assumption that it's Ontario. And they need to follow, if they wanted to look at one slide here, it would be the last one or second to last about the labor market impact assessment. So they need to advertise for Canadians. And if they're in here, perhaps they've already done that and haven't found what they need. It helps if it's a specialized position they're looking for. So if this person or this business needs someone to do something really in particular that is difficult to find, that will accelerate the process and makes it easier for the government to green light the LMIA. And then the timing for these things can take 3 months to 5 months, but given the labor shortages, I would guess it will be quicker. So I would need more context, but the general idea is, yeah, the same. They would need to advertise the position. I'm assuming it's a high demand industry, so it qualifies for the LMIA, and they would get a positive LMIA result. Then they go to the government with their positive result. They have to do an interview. Then after the interview, once they have their approval, they need to help their employee get the work permit. And that's about all there is to it. Now, obviously there's nuance, but yeah, if they want to reach out, myself and Maria would be more than happy to help this process along. And I will say one other thing, if you go through this process and you're like, oh, well, this is going to be expensive, you know, and is it worth the money? There can be tax benefits to going through that process as well. I won't get too far into that, but spending the money on developing a new foreign employee and obtaining one can have a net positive effect on your tax bill.
Okay. You've got a couple others that just came through. One of them is there a limited amount of foreign workers that you can have on payroll as a Canadian company?
No, there's not. Again, you have to go through the process for each worker, so that can be cumbersome. I believe there used to be a program where you could block hire. I don't think that's in existence anymore. However, through the provincial nominee programs, like again, depending which province this person is in, there may be programs they can avail themselves of, but there is no limit, on how many foreign workers you can have. Just as an example, the temporary foreign worker program, it's not exactly analogous, but you know, farmland in southern Ontario is staffed almost entirely by temporary foreign workers in the harvest months. There's hardly any Canadians doing that work. So there's no difference between industry there. So no, there is no limit. As long as you can prove that you can't hire a Canadian, you can bring in whatever other nationality you need or qualifies.
Okay, we've got another one that says, how important is English for an unskilled worker to come into Canada? And is it different for different countries, for example, the Philippines or Vietnam?
No, so English language is important. Ideally, you know, this is Canada, so they like seeing English and French. In fact, you'll never hear the government admit this, but if they can get someone, they'd almost choose French over English. But no, language is important. It's not determinative, but it is a factor in the application. So yeah, they need to have some proficiency in either English or French. To the second part of that question, Vietnam, the Philippines, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which country they're from, so long as they meet the requirements outlined for that country. So for instance, obviously the Americans have the most lax access requirements, but after you get away from the US, the rest of the world is largely very similar. You know, if you're trying to get someone from the UK versus the Philippines, depending on the type of job it is you're trying to fill, there may not be much of a difference. I'm not going to speak authoritatively on that specific thing right now because some of the nuance on which country the worker is coming from is found in the regulations, and we've got different treaty arrangements with different countries which can affect this process. However, I do not believe it is a problem to hire from you know, Vietnam or the Philippines specifically. No.
Okay. Another question just came in. What if I have a whole crew coming on board? Can we do the process at the same time with everyone?
Yeah, you can do the process at the same time. However, they all need to be individually approved, of course. But yeah, you can collect all their information and submit them all at once. They will each have to do, you know, like if it's again construction, they'll each have to have the positive labor market impact assessment, and you'll have to prove that Canadians don't want to do this job. So reading between the lines here, if it's, you know, if it's low wage jobs, often, you know, if it's like a job that Canadians won't do because they think the money's not good enough, that works too. that will help. And often that's what these block hires are for. So yeah, you can go through that process with everyone, and an immigration lawyer will offer you a discount, I'm sure, if you're doing a bunch at once. But yeah, there's no issue with doing that. Again, it's just the process will be the same for each person. But if you do them all the same day, you should get an answer of them all the same day as well.
Nice. All right. Another question just came in is, what is the estimated cost per worker for this process?
Oh boy. It depends on the process. So there's different processes. I'm going to assume they're speaking of construction, and it would depend. Like I would say for your average immigration firm in Toronto, it would be like $3 to $5 grand a person. But that's not necessarily, Toronto's not a good example of costs. I'm sure you could get an immigration firm and to pump us here. I mean, we like to offer below rate services in Toronto to be competitive for this kind of thing. So I'm not sure how much we would charge for this kind of service, but it would be more competitive than a Bay Street firm. But yeah, it's not cheap necessarily, because the process is a little labor exhaustive on the paperwork end. But again, there are tax benefits, and if someone wants to discuss the tax implications of going through this process with me, happy to do that. So yeah, the cost, it varies. It varies is the answer. I hate to give a typical lawyer answer of it depends, but in this case, I kind of have to.
Well, let me help you out, Jeremy. That's why I'm the businessman on the call, so I can help you a little bit. The range you gave is very accurate. So whether even it's in the US or it's in Canada, they're very similar. So I'll give it to you in US dollars. It does range somewhere between 2,500 and 5,000 per person on a normal easy work visa. Immigration be the same converted over there. So the range you gave is about right. All the way up, if you got a difficult case, when I say difficult, somebody that you're already working with and they run into a snag and you got to go a little bit further with either government, you could go up as high as 7,500 to 10 grand. So that's usually the max is about $10,000. That's not necessarily that what you're going to go, but I just wanted to give you that range from the easy, get it across temporary worker to possibly maybe once you get them there, you might want to get somebody to be a permanent resident to go through that. And that's where it usually goes up a little bit more to get that long-term visa.
Yeah. Thanks for the assist, John.
That's what I'm here
All right.
for, man.
We've got another one. Jeremy, this one, it looks like it's geared to you, but we have a roofing company and we were told that we can only bring in 10% max of the unskilled position. And per example, for the Philippines, they had to have a high English score and pass the POLO. What is the POLO? POLO.
POLO?
Yes.
I would say that's a proficiency of the English language test. I'm not sure. I mean, I will have to get back to them on that. The 10% unskilled labor, I think that would be for a different visa than the LMIA. So for some of the programs, like the provincial nominee programs and the some of the federal programs, depending which avenue you go, there are caps on immigration. But the key thing to know is if you are in an industry, like the main policy goal of the government here is to accelerate business and not have not have a hindered economy because Canadians are getting Canadians are pricing themselves out of certain jobs and just not doing them and doing other things. So the government is Philippine Overseas Labor Office. I've never heard of that, so I would have to get back to you on how that would work with the Philippines. Again, there's certain regulations for certain countries. Generally speaking, it doesn't matter the country, but again, you can't. We would have to go into that. But for the LMIA, which is the key thing for immigration right now in the construction industry in Canada, and I'm going to speak only mainly to Ontario right now because that's where I am and that's where I'm seeing on the ground. But I know in British Columbia, Alberta, it's similar. And Quebec has a huge labor shortage right now. There is no cap on labor market impact assessment jobs for your company if you can prove you need them. If you can prove you can't get a Canadian to do the job, you can bring in someone else to do it for the Canadians who won't. That I know for sure. And it's just a matter of going through the process. But let me see.
I've got another question. It says, what happens if an individual applicant does not work out after hired?
If an individual applicant does not work out after hired,
Yes.
well, part of their visa, their work permit would be to remain employed. So their work permit would be voided. So again, the 10% thing just came up again. I just want to address this again. I would need to get back to you guys on the 10% cap. I'm not sure which program that would be applicable for, because again, there's different avenues you can take. So for unskilled labor, like basic, just a laborer, it could be different. I don't believe it is. But if anyone wants to get with me about their specific situation that they're hearing this about, I can probably give more detailed advice rather than just my off the cuff knowledge here. But generally speaking, from the experience I have in immigration, and when there is a need for work, you can bring people in to fill that need, but you just need to be able to prove that you can't find Canadians. I don't want to discount what people are saying about the 10% cap or about the Philippines government required on this polo thing.
Let me see if I can help you out a little bit, Jeremy. Okay, so Philippines, the polo, that's like their Department of Labor, like here in the US, and actually they're attached across to our Department of Labor because the naturalized Philippine citizens hold dual citizenship with USA. So I think that's probably why they need to get approval on that, because that's probably what complicates it a little bit. So it's not, so I mean, not to get in too deep in that, because we could probably do a whole half-hour segment just on that, but that's where that comes in. That's the tie-in of Department of Labor. And the 10% cap, I believe, is what the question was, and they are correct. That does apply to lower waged unskilled labor. So your skilled labor that you were referring to, there's not a cap on that because you're paying highly skilled and you go through the process. But say example, to give a good example, let's just say the average wage of your roofing company is $20 an hour. Just use an example. And you were going to flood the market by bringing in, you have 100 people that work for you with that average. You would have a problem bringing in more than 10 if you were bringing them in at, say, $8 an hour, considering them low wage helpers. That's where, because they're unskilled, that's where that would kick in, I believe. I would say don't quote me, but I think I'm pretty accurate on that.
Yeah. No, that sounds about right. And that would be in line with government policy as well of not, cheapening the labor force. So that does make sense. I guess I may have conflated the two different avenues there. If, unskilled labor, you don't want to lower the, you don't want negative pressure on wages in Canada either. So the government would obviously want to balance unskilled labor versus skilled labor coming in, because skilled labor is going to demand a high wage anyway.
So I think that answers the question that was asked. So yes, there is a 10% cap on lower wage unskilled labor.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I do not have any other questions right now. I did go ahead and add Jeremy and John's email in the chat for you, John, and there's also a general information and our website and phone number. And if you are interested in talking specifically to Jeremy or John, you can reach out on their email, which is in the chat.
Yeah,
Great.
please feel free to contact us. So any closing remarks, Jeremy?
No, again, well, yeah, I don't know why I said no. Just a brief closing remark. So this is obviously, you know, there's different avenues everyone can take to bring in labor, unskilled or skilled. And I think that, you know, knowing more about a situation that your company is in will help me or you know, our colleagues in immigration with whatever issue it is you're having. I think in Ontario right now, the LMIA program is your best bet. Skilled labor, no cap. I've just learned that unskilled labor, for sure there is a cap, but I wasn't aware of that necessarily. So now I know. And yeah, just reach out, and you know, once we know more about situations that you find yourself in, or you want to avail of our services to get you know, immigration help, please reach out. And thanks for tuning in once again.
All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for turning in. It was our pleasure, and we look forward to answering any other questions. And we probably will not have another webinar before the holidays. So wishing everybody a happy holiday season, and we'll plan something really good coming up here in January.
Yes, yeah. Happy holidays to everyone, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.